Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Toronto Raptors reportedly have a mutual interest in seeking out a trade that could send the talented player to Toronto. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Does that actually make sense for that team? Plus, what does the Suns coaching search say about Kevin Durant and his future with that team? And Danny Ainge makes an interesting hire. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. This one comes from the Toronto star, Doug Smith. According to that, there is mutual interest between Giannis Antetokounmpo and Toronto, though the cost could be tricky in regards to a trade. According to Doug Smith, again from the Toronto Star, did say this: I don't know if it will happen, but I do know there is mutual interest between Antetokounmpo and the Raptors. The wild card is the cost. But I also think the Raptors are uniquely placed to make an attractive offer that won't ruin the franchise or roster. I think that they make a case for a logjam at the wings, makes them deep enough that if they had to pay even two out of Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Jacoby Walter, and RJ Barrett, would still leave them enough to fill out pretty good team with promising young players still developing. Plus, they have all their picks, so giving a first rounder every year for say 4 years leaves enough. So we heard that the other day, this was just a couple days ago. I didn't do an episode on it because I felt like it was kind of it was something, but it didn't have enough that I felt comfortable like running with it as far as the Toronto Raptors are going big fish hunting. You now hear this: the Toronto Raptors and Giannis Antetokounmpo do have some mutual interests. We still haven't heard anything that's come out of the meeting with the ownership of the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. But now sitting here with the Toronto Raptors being a team that is interested in Giannis, and Giannis may have some interest there as well, it leads you to believe on what that's going to look like. A, would they give up Scotty Barnes for Giannis Antetokounmpo? I wouldn't think that they want to do that, right? So you hold on to Scotty Barnes, you hold on to Brandon Ingram, more than likely, unless you send him in that deal. But then again, you just gave him a contract. Essentially, he's locked up to 27-28. Would the Milwaukee Bucks want a 27-year-old player that's locked into that? Do they feel like that's enough to have the team still win while they gain more draft picks? Maybe. If that's the case, that would be a crazy deal there, right? RJ Barrett, is that enough? Right? Is RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and a bunch of first-round picks, is that enough? Make no mistake, if they're able to pair Giannis Antetokounmpo with a Scotty Barnes, that's a talented team. Make no mistake about it, especially defensively. How's the offense going to work out? Jakob Poeltl, is that enough at the starting center position? I would say this: Giannis has done more with less, right? If you're able to keep Scotty Barnes in that deal, and I think that should be a sticking point for the Toronto Raptors. If you're able to keep Scotty Barnes in that deal, and you walk away without that happening, I think that you are in a place where you're at least competing for playoff positioning in the Eastern Conference for sure. And that could maybe be enough, right? And as the article said, they have all their own first-round picks, which is in a really great place to be in, right? When you have all those first-round picks, you can offer the picks straight up. You can offer pick swaps. They sit in a place where they're $7 million below the first, below the luxury tax, $19 million below the second tax apron. So the Toronto Raptors actually sit in a place to where they can put together an offer that would make sense. The question is what all would the Milwaukee Bucks be looking for back in that case, and how much does that leave the Toronto Raptors with for a chance to compete now, right? That's a move. If you make a move for Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's not to compete 2 or 3 years down the road, even though he's under contract until 27-28, the end of the 27-28 season. But you still want so he's there, but you don't want to wait years to compete. You want to add Giannis to something to where you can start making those moves now. And for the Milwaukee Bucks, what is it? Is it the picks are the most thing to where they would be open to taking a Brandon Ingram contract back just because of the nature that, you have Brandon Ingram. He's still a talented player. You can still go out there and put out a product that your fans are going to want to watch. But at that point, you're stacking draft picks. Is that enough in that case, right? It's a lot up in there. And I think in this era of the second tax apron as well, like, keep in mind, the Milwaukee Bucks are a team that, no, I take that back. I had to fact check myself. They're $40 million below the second tax apron. That's crazy. So, the Milwaukee Bucks have some space there to do some things if they decide to do that. So, they can aggregate salaries in that case. So, great. Glad I fact checked myself on that. So, this is going to be an interesting case study. What happens here? Does Giannis really go to the Toronto Raptors? I remember it was floated out a little while ago that the Toronto Raptors could be a team interested in Giannis. And a lot of people said, well, what sense does it make for him to go to Toronto? But you look at Toronto's done wonders with international players. They have a great multicultural city to where international players can definitely find their way at home. And you look at where Giannis is and how he's made himself at home in Milwaukee. How that's become his second home for him. I can easily see that happen in Toronto as well. And we know that Toronto Raptors are not against making big moves if they feel it gets them closer. Now, I don't see this being a move that makes them a championship contender, but I do see this as them. You keep Scotty Barnes, you keep Jakob Poeltl on that team if you're able to do that. You would keep certain pieces. I could see it being something that could be beneficial to you for sure. You're still gonna have to make some other decisions and stuff like that. But like they could offer a Ochai Agbaji at 24 years old, right? Offer a Brandon Ingram in that case as well that gets you close to the way of Giannis Antetokounmpo's money right there off those two players alone. So they have the contracts that they can match. I doubt they'd be interested in Emmanuel quickly, but maybe, right? So if you can find a way to keep RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, and then get Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jakob Poeltl, that gets you there. Now, if they're going to want Brandon Ingram and an RJ Barrett or whatever else it is, you still can be a good enough team. Grady Dick is another player at 21 years old who's shown some promise. They may very well want him as well to come in that trade. So let me know what you guys think down below. Toronto Raptors reportedly, after being rumored that they want to go big fish hunting, that came from Brian Windhorst just 24 hours ago. And now for it to come out that there is mutual interest between Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Toronto Raptors. Let me know how you guys feel on that down below. With that said, let's move into the next topic. The Phoenix Suns. They're a team that a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen with this Phoenix Suns team, right? That they almost traded Kevin Durant at the trade deadline. Reportedly, multiple teams were interested. But this one comes from Mark Stein, who says this. There have been strong indications during the search process, sources say, to reinforce the notion that Phoenix is likely to move on from Kevin Durant after Durant's 2.5 season run in the desert. It's been anticipated for some time that Phoenix, no matter who is hired as the new coach, will explore Durant trades options this offseason. In collaboration with future Hall of Famer and business manager Rich Kleiman, and Phoenix Suns pursued a Durant trade in February that the 36-year-old ultimately urged them not to make. Again, he urged them not to make that because he didn't want to move his family in the middle of the season. He didn't want to do that. So that seems like, hey, if anything, what we're hearing now from Windhorst is that the coaching search by the Phoenix Suns is all but pointing to Kevin Durant being on the move this summer. And also that it feels less likely that they're going to choose to move on from Devin Booker, which is something that I think the Phoenix Suns should do. I really think the Phoenix Suns should look to move on from Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, stack all with as many draft picks as humanly possible, clear that whole deck. Now, understand that Devin Booker is a player that you drafted. He's he's grown up within your team and in your organization. So you may want to see what you can do there and do right by him. Perfectly fine there if that's what you decide to do. But a Kevin Durant trade market, I would think, is going to be a full one, even at 37 years old, right? And I've seen it on this channel. People say, well, Kevin Durant, like somebody said that Kevin Durant is a cancer. I don't feel that way about Kevin Durant. I do think he is a player that is, of course, getting long in the tooth, but he's still a very impactful player, right? He's still a player that can impact. And I think if a team makes a move for Kevin Durant, they have to do so under the right circumstances, though, right? You're not making a move for Kevin Durant to become what makes your team good, right? You're adding Kevin Durant to already what you have there, which is a solid base, which is why Kevin Durant to the Rockets has been a rumor around for a while, because they're already building something there, right? They're not looking for Kevin Durant to come in and make them a playoff team or anything like that. They're looking for them to help get them over the top to where they can get into contending status with a player that's able to score. Kevin Durant, even 36 years old last season, 26 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists on 52% shooting from the field and 43% shooting from 3-point line. Kevin Durant is still a very impactful player, right? He took 6 3-pointers per game, so it's not like it's small sample size. Kevin Durant can still help a lot of teams. I think it just makes a lot of sense for the Phoenix Suns at this point to just move on. You're going to do so at the trade deadline. You had deals reportedly lined up. We know that you're over the second tax apron, so you can't aggregate salaries, but once you have a move in place, it's kind of easier to make those subsequent moves to kind of support that, to put you in a place to be able to make that. And a team taking on Kevin Durant's $54 million next year. That's what the salary that he's going to make at the last year of his deal. is a large undertaking for a team. But keep in mind, it's not a long commitment either. Now you're probably going to want to sign Kevin Durant to an extension if you trade for him and probably lock him into the last contract of his career. But a team has the option to really kind of survey how he fits in and where it really puts their team before they attach long-term big money to it, right? And then they're stuck with it. So I think there's that aspect for Kevin Durant. Again, I don't see him as a cancer like some people in the comment section of this channel have said and talked about him like, but I do think it's the right thing for Phoenix. It's the right thing for Kevin Durant. It's time to move on. This experiment here did not work out. Kevin Durant has been he's been part of one of the best super teams of all time with the Golden State Warriors, and has been now a part of two failed super teams for various different reasons with the Brooklyn Nets and now with the Phoenix Suns. And that just is what it is, right? That's the way the cookie crumbles. But Kevin Durant still can help a team. And I think especially like I zero in a lot on him, potentially going to Houston. He is from Texas. And if that happens, either that or San Antonio, he can help those teams. I think Houston is further along, right? You look at their process. If they had a Kevin Durant in the playoffs this year, I do think they have a chance to make it to the Western Conference Finals. You add that, right? With all the draft picks that they have, you have an opportunity to do something special. Albeit, you're still hoping that Amen Thompson grows over that time and turns into an absolute monster like he's on the precipice of doing. He's on that path to turn into that number one player on that team, and you clear out some things. So we'll see. Overall, I'll say this. When it comes down to Kevin Durant, I would bet on the safe bet that he's not going to be a member of the Phoenix Suns when the season starts. That's my personal opinion. You guys can let me know if you feel differently on that. Let me know how you guys feel down below on that. Another team that was in the Western Conference Finals that didn't quite make it far. This one came out from Mark Stein as well as free agency targets for the Minnesota Timberwolves heading into this offseason. One of the guys was their own free agent in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Now, I think that's going to be a difficult thing for them to hold on to. And I think you have a player in Terrence Shannon Jr., who was an older rookie when you drafted him, that could be ready to step into that role, at least the scoring aspect. I don't think he has the defensive ability of a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but I do think that that's going to be a thing there. With the second tax apron over that team, you have a player like Terrence Shannon Jr., you take advantage of it, and you hold on to him, right? And that's the thing that I think that you do. You let Nickeil Alexander walk depending on how big the money gets. I think you'll be fine there, but if they did. The next player, Tyus Jones with the Phoenix Suns. Now, this could make a lot of sense. I do think as well his brother Trey Jones could make some sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. You look at the latest mocks, though, the Timberwolves could get a point guard in Kasparas Jokic in the draft. He could fall to them at 17. So, of course, this list could change based off what they do in the draft because the draft comes before free agency. But Trey Jones, Tyus Jones, either Jones brother, I think makes a lot of sense for this team as well. I think they're both feasible options for the Minnesota Timberwolves without breaking the bank there. Also, I think that's a big deal for them. Tyus Jones is somebody that I really like for this team. And then as well in this article, they point out Chris Paul. I'm not a Chris Paul guy. I get it. He's still effective. He played all 82 games last year. But I think you need a little bit more than that if you want to get to where the Minnesota Timberwolves want to get to this season, and that's contending, right? But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe Chris Paul can come in and with one year under his belt help complement Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle, getting them lobs and things like that. He averaged 8.8 points per game last year, 7.4 assists, which was 7th in the league as well, and 3.6 rebounds, and played all 82 games. And we know that Chris Paul, if he's going to be in there, he's going to want to compete for something. I think he's been fine being a part of what the San Antonio Spurs had going on, but I think he's going to want to compete if he gets a chance. But those free agents, I guess they make some sense there for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I would replace Chris Paul with Trey Jones. Personally, I think Trey Jones, who played for my Chicago Bulls last year, showed that he's still a starting caliber player in this league and knows how to play a complementary role for ball-dominant players. So that's what I would like to see there. But hey, you guys can let me know how you feel on that one below as well. Last topic before we get out of here. Danny Ainge with the Utah Jazz hired his son from the Boston Celtics to lead the front office of the Utah Jazz team, which is crazy, right? That's funny. They are hiring Boston Celtics assistant Austin Ainge as the franchise's president of basketball operations, and that came from Tim Bontemps. He's played 14 years. He was working in the front office of Boston. He was the last 6 who was in his current role with that team. That one came from Shams Charania. So Danny Ainge bringing his son in. And is this a transition plan? there with the Utah Jazz? We'll see. He has the experience. This isn't just a nepotism hire. There's a little bit of that, of course, but it's not just that. And I think this is a really good thing. And to see that transition, we're in a place. Like I'm so old now that I'm starting to see players that I watched in their prime, their sons come into the league, which is crazy, with like Jason Richardson, Scottie Pippen Jr., right? These guys coming here. I watched their fathers played in the prime. Now I'm starting to see sons of the executives that were also in the prime in my lifetime. Their sons now also be taking over front offices. It's a really weird place to be in. But that's my time for today. Quick episode for you guys. I wanted to get out with the news. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.